Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City Council chambers. This is a regularly scheduled committee of the whole meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. The time is 9 a.m. And we're going to have to take roll call. We have an absent council member. Please take roll call for me. Thank you, Pam.
Baraboo,
Present.
Friedlieb,
Here.
Paulson,
Present.
Beyondich,
Present.
Johnson,
Here.
Anzelli is absent, Cuffey.
Present, thank you. Move to item 1 on the agenda, which is an appearance. And before we do so, I want to welcome everybody here to the City Council chambers. Just for the general public to know, we have our staff here at the Committee of the Whole meeting. We have our Finance HR Director, Sherry Erickson. We have our City Administrator, Britzy Bennis. We have Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber. We have our City Attorney, Brian Lindsay. We have Matt Reed from SCH. We have Tyler and Tracy Lundeen from the Lundeen Group for the MEC. And also present today, we're welcoming the Rock Ridge Environmental Science students and staff regarding the shoreline restoration efforts on Silver Lake. And we have in the back one of our VEDM board members in the back there, Dave Tuttle. So hopefully I didn't forget anybody that's in the audience. Oh, Eric Wedge from DSGW, our architect of record for the MEC. Is there anyone on the line that is listening today? Okay, thank you. We'll proceed with item 1 on the agenda, and we welcome once again a presentation by Rock Ridge Environmental Service Science students regarding the shoreline restoration efforts on Silver Lake. Please come forward and put the green light on there. If you turn the microphone on, green, and welcome, and we look forward to your presentation. You may take it off if it's comfortable for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having us. I am Lisa Rodstrom, environmental science teacher over at Rock Ridge High School, and since 2016, my class has been participating in a partnership with the City of Virginia, where we have been planting trees around Silver Lake. Hands-on learning, community involvement are all topics we're exploring. In addition, learning a little science, we're learning about shoreline restoration, water quality, and just thinking about what we can all do individually to make a difference in our communities. Today, I have a group of students who will give you an overview of what they have been working on since February. I have a handout. I don't know how to go about distributing these.
Sure. Thank you, Britt.
They're going to tell you a little bit about the background of what we've been doing. They're going to show you the trees that we have chose to plant, and we're going to ask you for your permission to hopefully get out and plant some trees the week of May 16th.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. And welcome the spokesperson for your group. If you would please state your name for the record, and welcome to the City Council chambers.
I'm Martha.
Josiah Jonas.
Did you get those names? Okay, if you could just, we would like to put it for the record, if you may.
I'm Martha Boyd.
And you are, sir?
Josiah Jonas.
Get that, Pam? Thank you.
We started the Score the Shore analysis in April, and to do that, we evaluated each location by the upland, shoreline, and aquatic area on Silver Lake, and we decided that Area 7 and 3 have the lowest total, and that's where we will be planting the trees. We have ordered the trees, and they will arrive May 13th. We're planning to plant around May 16th.
Okay. How we chose the trees? Let's see. We had to choose from 5 primary trees, and in order to narrow it down, we all researched each individual tree and then voted on the best possible candidate. Then the trees we chose the yellow birch, and then we chose trees from the pollinator pack, which include the chokecherry, Juneberry, American plum tree, dogwood, and cranberry tree for color and tree diversity.
Excellent. If you may, if you would please one more time, repeat those trees that you plan on planting.
The yellow birch, the choke cherry, Juneberry, American plum tree, dogwood, and cranberry tree.
Thank you very much. And of course, as you've done in the past, you'll be working closely with the city staff, Brian Silver, our Park and Rec Director, along with some consultation with our engineer of record at SEH as we move toward the improvement in the planting of the trees around Silver Lake. This has been something that we've had set on the, held in abeyance because the project cost planting trees wasn't inclusive of that. So for you to take on this responsibility, get the trees and do the work around Silver Lake is just a phenomenal community effort on the part of your program, your classroom, and then the staff that's operating. So we thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. So anything else that anybody would like to add in that regard before we go to the council for questions?
Very briefly, we have 2 posters
Bring them up.
here to represent
Well, please do.
the type of tree that we're planting.
Please do. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Grace Wilson, and I'm a senior, and this is Ava Knutson, and she's a sophomore. And so we did our poster on the American plum tree, and then so we're just going to let you know a few facts about it. So it's fairly winter hardy, but it doesn't do so well in shade and drought, which spots that we have planned out have quite a bit of sun, and they're near the lake, so that should be okay. It does well for songbirds, so they are attracted to that. For nesting and things for the season. It grows about as tall as it is wide, so it's kind of shrubbish. And then also it takes around 4 to 5 years for it to actually start producing fruit.
And then it normally grows around 12 to 24 inches a year until it reaches its mature height, which isn't that tall. And then its trunk normally either grows as one trunk or it'll like bunch up into a short scaly trunk. And then I think
And thank you. Would you please once again repeat, when it starts to grow and about the time it takes for it to reach maturity?
it normally reaches its mature height once it reaches around, I think it was 10 to 20 feet, and it normally grows 12 to 24 inches a year until it reaches around that height.
Thank you. And would you turn the poster around and show it to the camera so that those who are listening and seeing at home, you have it? We got it from behind me, so thank you very much. Thank you, Steve. Okay, fantastic. So that's the plum tree.
That's the plum tree.
Okay,
And then we have
and the
one
next.
species of bird.
Oh, the yellow birch, fantastic. Gentlemen, would you please state your name for the record?
I'm Kobe Casey. I'm a senior, and this is Nick Peters. He's also a senior.
Thank you very much.
We did our project on the yellow birch. The leaves are 6 to 10 centimeters long. The yellow birch often reaches 60 to 75 feet tall and up to 2 feet in diameter. The seed catkins, right there, are straight ovoid and often reach 1.5 to 3 centimeters long. The seeds are eaten by a variety of songbirds and ruffed grouse.
All right. Flowering begins from April to May, and for leafing and fruiting is from July to August. Yellow birch often reaches max height at 150 years. Average age in old growth is 200 to 250 years, and maximum age is over 300 years. Birch is hard, dense, strong, and heavy, and yellow birch reproduces primarily by seed first at 40 years.
Thank you. I just have one question for you, and then we'll go to the council if they have any questions. So the trees that you've selected, and you've touched on some of the advantages and the growth patterns and the advantages of what kind of wildlife would benefit from that. So you had indicated ruffed grouse. What was the other one?
A variety of songbirds.
Variety of songbirds, which is great. And these are trees that the public has probably talked to all the counselors about. When are you going to plant some trees? What kind are you going to plant? How is that going to affect the habitat moving forward? So this presentation that you're making today is so very important to let the citizens know that there is a community effort to do so, and particularly a collaborative between Rock Ridge Schools and the City of Virginia. So this is a very exciting project for us. So if you just bear with us one moment, does any counselor have a question, a comment, or any information you'd like to disseminate to the students and staff today? Counselor Paulson, and then Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I really thank you all for coming. I think this is really exciting and very timely because we have been asked when the trees were knocked down, what kind of trees are going to be replanted. And I really appreciate that you're doing some fruit-bearing trees. When I look at the order form and it says number of bundles for the birch yellow 1, how many trees is that equal? 25. And then the.
I don't anticipate planting.
Sure. And then the cost is borne by, is it by the school? We really appreciate that. I mean, I love having that collaborative working with the school. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for the hard work you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming. I know we can be a little intimidating sitting up here, but we're really not. I had the same question. This is for Silver Lake. As you may or may not know, we are completely redoing the trail around Bailey's Lake. So that may be a future project as you know, we've cut a lot of trees and there's been some concerns, as Paulson mentioned. But working with you with the knowledge that you have about both the lakes are similar, that might be something future. And then the one thing that popped into my mind is if somebody's watching this and wants to help contribute to purchasing these trees, would they be able to send it to the school or send it to the city and we can get it to you one way or another? Would that be an acceptable option for folks? So sawdust or mulch? Okay, so we'll have them get a hold of the city administrator, and then that way we don't have too much sawdust or mulch in the future. Or cash donations, I guess we'd refer them to Britt, and then we'll make sure they get to the students in the program. Appreciate you doing this, and this is, this is what, year 5 of this project? So that's great. Last year we don't count last year for much of anything, so thank you all very much for coming in today.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, we'll take them. I'd like to issue a challenge to the general public and all those people who are listening today. And as you advertise for this very important community project that we have, I know we have a lot of generous people in the community. So on behalf of the city council and the staff, we will throw some seed money of $100 into your program as a challenge to everybody else to help contribute to what you need in order to accomplish your goal and objective. So we'll make sure we get you that $100 and then go from there. So thanks very much for coming in. If you have any other questions or comments, regarding, I know you are short on time with respect to your school. Councilor Beyondich has a question. You have experience in the area of foliage and things of that nature, right? Councilor Beyondich.
I do, but mostly I want to thank you for coming. As Councilor Johnson had stated, it is scary to come here and come up to the podium and speak, and you did a wonderful job, and I applaud you for working with the city to get trees planted, to beautify our lakes, and take interest in what's going on. So I really do thank you for coming in.
Lastly, thank you for trusting in us.
Well, your
Experience.
reputation precedes you, and the work you've done in the past has been, just, it's immeasurable, so thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Mayor?
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, Councilor Paulson has another question here. Councilor Paulson.
Actually, it's not a question, but a comment. Just want to let the public know that these trees are actually being ordered locally from our Northern St. Louis County Soil and Water Conservation Unit. So I appreciate you staying local, and I just wanted to let the community know that. Oh, and one last comment. I just took a drive up to the new school, and it's right on the blueberry patch we all loved. So maybe you guys could explore the blueberry patch where that used to be, and maybe have some discussions on that. We really will miss that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Have a great rest of your day. Okay, we'll move on to the agenda, and I'll turn it over to our City Administrator, Britt C. Bennett. So we're going to move around a little bit
Yes,
to
we are.
accommodate.
We are.
Britt?
Councilor Baraboo has to leave early today, so he asked that we move up the street and alley items. So item number 4, the request from Janet Hogus regarding adopt a roadway sign on Borgen Road and Midway.
Thank you, Brett. I've asked, I've got a doctor's appointment I have to be at here partway through this meeting, so I have to leave here about 9:45. We've had a request from Jane, how do you pronounce that? Hogus? For putting up one of these signs that they use, like the state does for cleanup along Borgen Road. Right now, we don't have any policy on those type of signs for the city. I'd kind of like it to move it to actually, we've got a street and alley coming up, move it there for now, and then have Mr. Hennis and stuff take a look at what the signage is for that type of thing. I don't think it's a problem, but I'd like to just do that. So if that's okay with the council?
Thank you. Could you hold off on that motion until we have, I think we have a light on over here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. She asked me to bring it forward. What the idea is there's so many friends of the greenhouse, friends of the public safety, friends of the rec, that what Janet would like to do is see a coordinated effort once or twice a year to go and pick up Borgen Road. And then basically, and I like the idea of coming up with a policy, because I think there's other places that people would be willing, Southern Drive, some of the other kind of rural roads we have within the city limits. And then we would need to figure out, does the city provide the garbage bags? Do we provide the vests, the safety vests, as they do with the state? And I think we would just need to look up what the state or county do and then mirror that. And then those signs that say, you know, friends of whatever are picking up. So I appreciate that. We'll move it to a committee for closer study. But when she approached me, said send an email and we can bring it to the council, because then other folks will be able to have the similar opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, and just before you make the motion quickly, there is a group that is currently picking up along the Borgen Road because I live there, and I see them on a regular basis, so that might be her and her group or some others that are doing the same. So to formalize that, it makes a lot of sense. Councilor Baraboo.
Yeah, one of the reasons also that I want to have it referred, we have to make sure that the availability of how the signs, and the state has basically adopted their own signs that we probably can't use the state's, but we need to adopt our own type of signs too.
So you have a motion?
I have a motion to refer this to Street and Alley for further discussion.
Is there support? Support by Councilor Johnson, moved by Councilor Baraboo, supported by Councilor Johnson to move this to the committee level for Street and Alley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item is item number 5, a request, you have a letter in there for the Fuzzy Dyson Dream Machines cruise night on August 20th and 21st on Chestnut Street. We didn't have it last year because of the COVID, but I think we're at a point now where we can do this with everything that's going on and the reduction of COVID. So we just need to approve this letter for those dates and bring it to the council.
And if you look at the letter, the request is the same as it's always been.
Yeah.
Providing the in-kind service, similar to the in-kind service we provide for other things, including the festival at Looney's and other places in town, and the Art Walk and Revive Virginia, and those kind of things. So any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this letter? Counselor Paulson.
I was just going to move to approve.
Okay, well, Counselor Paulson moves to approve and supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson. Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Baraboo.
Oh, no, I don't have.
Okay,
discussion.
hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And I think we're going to go on to 6.2, right, Brett? Okay. Item 6, approve the resolution authorizing entering into a professional service agreement with SCH for engineering service related to the application for federal and state funds for 2023 street and infrastructure improvement projects. There's some money that's going to become available through the federal government for street and alley projects. Matt, do you want to explain exactly what it is?
Morning, Matt.
Hi, good morning. Yes, so as Councilor Baraboo referenced, I think we've talked about it a few other times, there is some federal funding that we're going to be pursuing, actually that we've already been awarded, $750,000 towards the 2023 project. But along with the federal funding comes a lot of extra paperwork and strings attached that we have to tackle. And so we're just trying to get out ahead of that a little bit, get some of that work done. That will affect the timeline down the road. We've got a lot of time, but I'd rather have a lot of time than not enough. So this is one step in the process to put the project memorandum together, and we work that through the DOT and through the necessary channels to get that approved. That'll be a big check off the box that we need to get done at some point. So that's what the contract is for in front of you.
Thank you.
This amounts to $12,700 is the kind of, it's well worth it for the money we've gotten already. So we just have to follow up all the paperwork, and that's a lot of work. I remember that when we did 9th Avenue, all the paperwork we had to do for the feds. So I appreciate it, Matt. So
You have a motion, Counselor Baraboo?
yeah, I have a motion that we approve the service agreement with SCH for the engineering services.
Moved by Counselor Baraboo. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody allowing us to move those ahead. I've got a little more time, so I'll be able to stay for another 20 minutes here before I have to leave. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Baraboo. Britt?
We'll go back up to item number 2, which is approve the resolution to accept the bid from Northeast Technical Services for the pre-demolition asbestos hazardous waste inspection at 805 Fifth Avenue South.
Okay. Looking for council action.
Also move, Mayor, accepting the bid from Northeast Technical Services for the pre-demolition asbestos removal and hazardous waste, actually the inspection at 805 Fifth Avenue South.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Britt, can you remind me how we acquired the property?
Not our house.
It's not ours,
No,
but
but because we're the fiscal agent for a demolition grant, we have to do the bid for the asbestos.
thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 3 is the MEC facility request, and the first one is review and approve the Wellness Center operating agreement between the City of Virginia and the YMCA for 2021, but I believe that's off of 21.
Okay, thank you. And then after we get done with the MEC stuff, maybe we can move to this item that you put on our desk this morning. Very good, thank you. Good morning, Brian, our Park and Rec Director. It's a pleasure to see you once again.
Happy
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes. Before you, you have the an MOU that Chad and I have worked together. Chad sends his apologies that he's not able to make it to today's meeting. This MOU has been vetted by the League of Minnesota Cities attorney and also has gone through our Park and Recreation Commission. Essentially what this creates is the YMCA at the MEC. The YMCA would be in charge of programming and running the facility that we have there inside the MEC. They would work with us on capital purchases and improvements to the building. They provide the staff with the exception that we are splitting the cost of one employee that would be a YMCA employee that oversees the day-to-day operations of the fitness component of the facility. And we've also built in a revenue recapture component for the city in this so that the city is able to recapture the revenue that is needed to fund not only that position, but some capital expenditures in the future for the facility.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I do appreciate, Brian, that you're stating that it went through the League of Minnesota Cities attorney. I am not comfortable with the language, however, and I'm not sure how this language got to this point. Under number 7, item C, the city agrees to pay 50% and the YMCA agrees to pay 50% of an agreed-upon salary between the City of Virginia Council and the YMCA CEO for the Health and Wellness Coordinator position. To me, that's creating an actual position, and I'm surprised we haven't heard from the union on that, because in my opinion, we set out to do basically a professional services agreement. So this doesn't look like a professional service agreement to me. It looks like more of we're splitting the cost of the coordinator, when I thought what we were doing when you had kind of brought up those original bullet points to us. So I was under the understanding that it would be more of a professional service agreement between the city and the YMCA for a set fee. So I guess I'm not real comfortable with that language and that wording. I would have rather have had them come to us and say, here's what it's going to cost, whether it's $50,000 a year or $80,000 or whatever to manage. So I'm just kind of questioning that language in that part of the contract.
I guess the intention of that was just to be transparent as far as where the city's money is going. It would not be a city employee, which is why it's not gone to the city personnel department. Basically, the city is going to be helping to provide half the funds for a YMCA employee that is going to be focusing on the MEC there. So this MOU is very transparent as far as where the city's funds are going. The YMCA is also willing to give us the say-so, I guess you could say, as to who that person is going to be.
And I do appreciate that. I guess, when it says that the city will be reimbursing 50% of their monthly salary to include all taxes and benefits. And I do agree that's real transparent, and I do appreciate that. I think for me, I was still looking for more, this is a professional services agreement, whether we've done that with our attorney, whatever that might look like. So I don't know what the rest of the council feels like, but, and then the other portion that I kind of had some issue with is that the contract automatically renews annually. Well, there is a out clause, and I haven't gotten down to that far. I guess I haven't read this since Friday. But I would, instead of an automatic renewal, I think it should be on an annual basis. But maybe our city attorney or someone can maybe give me an understanding, or even our HR director, why that's written the way it is when, in my opinion, this should be a professional services agreement.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. What I'd like to do is maybe refer to our city attorney, Brian Lindsay, for some questions and comments about the contract itself. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to review it, and whether this is a contractual issue or some kind of a conflict in some respects. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. I have had a chance to review this, and Councilor Paulson, I think your concern is well stated, and I think my understanding of the intent of the agreement was we wanted to avoid getting caught too far into this employment and having to exercise too much control over what the YMCA is doing. And the provision that you had indicated related to the split of reimbursement, while it seems innocuous on its face, it always leads to the potential then that somebody could come forward at some point, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and say, if and when something were to happen, to say, well, hey, wait a minute, I'm also a city employee because the city's paying half my salary. The great advantage that you achieve by doing a pure professional contract or an independent contract is the city says, look, here's a lump sum of money that we're going to give you. We expect that you'll provide these services, and one of those services could be a director or an on-site individual. But we're not specifically designating money for that. It's just they take it out of the lump sum contract fee that we pay, and we're in a better position to argue that we're not an employer of these folks on an individual basis. Because what ends up happening in some cases is if it becomes advantageous for a person who would be in this director position and they would receive a greater benefit by being considered a city employee, they may make that argument, or the state or the IRS may come in and say, well, we see what you're trying to do here, but what it really looks like to us is that this is an employee of yours, and so you're responsible for some additional taxes and costs that are associated with that.
And so your recommendation would be?
I just want to say thank you for that clarification, because that's exactly my point. So I don't know if the contract could be restated or whatever. I thought the intent of our original discussion was a professional services agreement.
And that's,
And first, I think Councilor Johnson had his light on first, then we'll go to Councilor Bearable.
Not on this point, Mayor, thank you.
Not on this, okay. Councilor Bearable.
Brian, I think you're right, and Julianne's right. We should look at this as a service contract and put it together in that aspect. So there's no question that this is not a city employee in this sort of portion of it. And that way, because otherwise, you're right, we're going to get in some trouble with the IRS and some other things around on this.
And I can definitely get back with Chad and we can review this section of the agreement and adapt it.
Why don't you bring it back then? We don't need to act today on this, except to have you guys bring it back.
And Mayor, if I may?
Yes, please.
And I know Councilor Johnson's waiting, so I'll be really, really brief. The fix here is actually very simple. Just to work with the folks over at the YMCA, try and find out what those costs look like, and then just build it as part of a lump sum, and within the scope of the service, just include provision of a director or whatever. And that makes it, I think, a lot simpler and a lot cleaner.
Thank you. Councilor Paulson, did that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Friedlieb, did you need to talk right now, Councilor Johnson, on this topic? Okay, thank you. Councilor Friedlieb.
Just any input from Sherry with regard to what we just heard, like from the HR standpoint? Were you comfortable with the arrangement that Brian had presented, or do you think we need to tweak it as has been suggested?
Thank you, Councilor. No, I totally agree with Councilor Paulson and what Brian has said. It is really a gray area I don't want to play in when it comes to contract professional fees versus an employee.
Okay.
And if I may, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole intent and purpose of what we're trying to accomplish is to provide some kind of certified experience, professional oversight of our fitness center in collaboration with an existing entity. And I think it's a great idea to do that. We just have to arrange it so that it's going to be limiting the liability that the city would have. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Friedlieb. And I can speak from experience working in another entity where we tried to do this. And of course, then the bargaining unit came back and petitioned for that to be a city employee, and it created a myriad of issues. So by clarifying and cleaning up that language would be very helpful, Brian. So thank you. Councilor Johnson.
This is a question about, in general, number 8, on page 6. The YMCA agrees to appoint a liaison. Do we need to look at our makeup of our commissions in general, this being the Parks and Rec Commission, that, that those people are voting or not voting, or are they just communication tool? Because if they're appointing a liaison, what is their purpose being on the board? And do you understand where, and this is bigger picture when it comes to trying to be more inclusive of user groups that are part of, are a part of what the city does. The Friends of the Library is a very now active organization, but should there be a Friend of the Library on the Library Commission? And if there's not, I know some of those people don't live within the city limits of Virginia, so I'm just looking at that bigger picture of how do we include user groups within our advisory commissions.
Okay. So I think this bodes for a separate discussion about that very issue.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, and I like the idea. I think it's a great idea that we are, and I appreciate that it says one representative to the wide board of directors, and it doesn't define that. I would guess it will be a Parks and Rec employee, probably Brian, or maybe one of the other main people. Overall, I think the two of you thought of just about everything. I was happy to see that if you're a member of the Y, you're automatically included at the MEC. I think that's a wise choice. It allows for accessibility for people who may have Y memberships but can't get that far across town. So that was my only question. And yes, it is a bigger discussion that I'd like to have at some point as we move forward. Brian, thanks for putting the work into this.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. So we're going to need a motion to set this back, because the language is here is to approve the resolution. So we want to send that back by motion. Before we do that, I think Councilor Freely had his light on. Councilor Freely.
Just a quick question. So like, is there going to be MEC membership for fitness center utilization, or?
Essentially, to put it in its simplest terms, essentially this will be another YMCA type facility. So it would be the YMCA at the MEC. So if you walk into the MEC doors and you buy a membership, the membership that you purchase at that site gives you all of the benefits of a YMCA membership. So you would be able to use that membership at the Mesabi YMCA, or if you are traveling to Arizona for the winter, you'd be able to use YMCA there. So you would get all of the benefits of a YMCA membership.
Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Before I make a motion, I did, based upon that question, I guess I need to clarify then, how does the city actually, how is this a revenue stream then from the city's perspective if we're going to be putting out finances for a professional services contract, management contract?
In the contract, we have the day use fees that the facility generates remain at that facility. But a day use fee that is purchased at the MEC also gets you access over at the Mesabi Y.
So how does that translate in terms of revenue?
If you walk in the doors and you purchase a day pass, a one-day pass, all of that money that is generated from those one-day passes stay there with the building.
So only if you use a one-day pass, not if you're going to be a MEC member? MEC memberships would be-
There is no
there's
MEC membership. It is a YMCA membership.
So
So
then-
it would be the YMCA at the MEC.
So I'm still questioning how we're going to generate revenue.
From the daily drop-in from
I can't
people
see
that
that
are
being
not.
generating revenue.
The YMCA generates revenue off of that currently. For daily
I guess
drop-ins at
I'd
the
have to see that.
YMCA.
I'd have to see that, the financials on that to make that, because basically, we're going to be spending, like we've done in the past with professional services, a pretty decent amount of money for this management contract. And the point of the MEC and what we're doing with this fitness facility is to create at least in the black and not in the red. Maybe not I don't think the city can generate a profit like Sherry always says. But I think my concern, I really appreciate the two of you working together, but now since that question was just raised, I'm concerned because we're going to outlay a pile of cash and say a number of 50,000, you're going to have, I don't know, however much a day pass is, say it's $10. You're going to have lots of day passes issued just to sustain paying the management company. So I'd like to see that in terms of a spreadsheet, what that revenue generation, what that projection might look like. That just doesn't quite make sense to me. And I thought that the city would be capturing those revenues and that we would just be hiring them to manage. So I'm seeing something totally different than what you guys are trying to create here.
We can work on putting together a spreadsheet like what you were referring to.
I guess I would like to see the Y just be the management company, and anybody that comes to be a member, the city generates, or the MEC generates that revenue for a positive cash flow within the MEC and paying for the equipment or whatever upgrades might need to be had. But the way this looks like to me is that it is centric on YMCA memberships, and I'm not comfortable with that, and I wouldn't vote for that.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. But before we go to Councilor Freely, I think I agree that this is an extension of the YMCA facility. It's an off-campus facility of the YMCA. So I guess the question I have is, why wouldn't they be paying a monthly rental fee for that facility in conjunction with any revenue that's generated from the day passes for us? So that's the way I look at it, because if they can use the YMCA in both places, I think that there has to be some investment in the facility space that they're utilizing to providing the YMCA services. Councilor Freely.
Yeah, I want to see this collaboration happen, but I don't want it to be essentially what it sounds like right now is more promotional for YMCA membership as opposed to MEC utilization and revenue positive raising events. So that's what I'm a little concerned about right now. It's like that I would, if I wanted to come there, walk the track or lift some weights, do whatever, essentially it sounds as though I'd have to be a member of the Y, short of a day pass, but that too overseen by the Y as well. So it's kind of almost like we're promotional to YMCA as opposed to the MEC facility. And I think, yeah, that's something we could consider. Like, if they're going to be coming over there to manage that facility, they have to have some stake and investment in that as well. But I do see the possibility for increased revenue because you do have people that are already longtime Y participants who I'm sure are going to have an interest in seeing the new and improved facilities that they could utilize over in Virginia as well. So I think that there's going to be a significant crossover that may improve revenue streams for us with regard to fitness and other types of programming through the Y. But right now, I'm not real comfortable with, in my impression, that if I wanted to come work out at the MEC, I'm going to have to be a member of the Y.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson, then back over to Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Larry. Mayor, sorry. I'm just trying to problem solve real quick here. Any of the day passes sold at the MEC will stay at the MEC. Can there be any of the Y memberships sold at the MEC? Can there be a percentage of those that stay at the MEC as well? That may be an opportunity for folks who are just going to use the Y. I don't know, I'm just throwing out some ideas at you. And then Councilor Fridley brought up the walking track only. There are probably a lot of people who only want to use the walking track. Will that be Y controlled, or is there another opportunity for revenue that you can buy a special membership through the Y that's walking only, and that revenue stays with the city as well?
Since the walking track is essentially part of the fitness component, that becomes a very difficult to manage single-use facility. From a supervisory standpoint of the facility, if you have just a pass to the walking track or a pass to a weight room, it creates an extra burden on staff to supervise you while you're using that to make sure that that is the only component of the facility that you're using, and you're not going, oh, well, I'll just get the walking track pass, and then, oh, there's a class going on, and then I'll go attend that class, whereas your membership didn't include that class. So it becomes a very gray area. Good example would be looking at the YMCA. They don't have just a swimming pool membership, because once you walk into the building, you would have access to the pool and to the weight rooms and the basketball court and those areas, and it becomes a supervisory nightmare for the staff to go, okay, that person is only a swimming pool, that person is only a weight room, and how do you make sure that they're not utilizing other areas of the facility? So that becomes a very tricky area to manage those memberships. But we can definitely look into other cost recovery things. I can go back and have further conversations with Chad about that, in addition to getting with our city attorney to change the language that we have in here for under the employment section.
Then my other question that was triggered by you managing other parts, will these folks have access to the shower changing rooms in the locker room area, or is this just upstairs in your downstairs?
We do have that stairway in the middle, so yes, we would be able to designate a shower changing room as part of this. So if you were to come and work out before work, you'd be able to go downstairs and shower before you went into the office for the day.
Okay, and I guess when we get further along, if that needs to be specified so that folks do know where it is, and, on a weekend during a hockey tournament, will it or will it not be available? I don't know. I would leave that up to the staff and y'all to figure those details out. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Quickly, I don't think that you should have to pay for a pass to walk around the track. This is a public facility. This is a community facility. I mean, if you're going to rent a rental space, you could use the weight rooms, that's fine. But to walk around the MEC, to have to pay for a pass for that makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So a lot of red flags just got raised for me. First of all, I still see this, and I don't mean to repeat, but this is a professional services management contract agreement. Any revenues that are, any membership, so I'm a member at a different fitness club, and I pay about $800 a year for that membership. So what I'm being just told is if I want to have an annual membership, my dollars, unless I pay daily for a day pass, my dollars to work out at the MEC and be a part of the MEC are going to the Y.
Yes, because it is a Y membership that you are getting, because this is the YMCA at the MEC.
Yeah, no, I will not absolutely go for that at all. That was not how it was originally pitched to us. That is very convoluted, and it is very Y-heavy. This is about generating, this is what you've been doing, trying to find streams of revenue for the MEC. So I'm not sure how you got convinced this is we're going to be paying for them to manage, and we're not going to receive any revenue, although maybe some day passes. But anyone who's like me, who's a regular fitness club member, I pay annually, and I pay one of the places around town $800 a year. So I'm now going to take my $800 a year, and that's going to go to the Y and not going to go to the MEC. And I'm not comfortable with that at all. I'm not. The reason we built this facility and had this opportunity, and then again, that goes to the students utilizing that. So how does that work? Okay, that's number one, was another red flag for me. Number two red flag is if you have the general public being able to use those and utilize those shower facilities, and you don't have, I don't know what the certificate is, safe maybe Sherry would know, and you're incorporating adults with children in in those open locker rooms, there's no doors on those. You walk in and you can't see anyone. There's no doors. You walk through the concrete, you walk to the left, and you walk to the right.
No, there are doors on every locker room.
That just aren't installed yet?
Correct.
Okay, so there will be a door, and it won't just be like an entrance like the Mountain Iron School. They just have a very open bathroom plan, just like that.
Each of the locker rooms has a door and also the privacy wall, so that we don't have the issue that we have in our current locker rooms where you open the door and you see right into the locker room. So we're providing 2 layers of privacy.
So I'm glad that there's going to be doors there, because I guess I didn't understand that. So that makes me feel better. But the other question I have is commingling adults when you've got youth in there after their sport, taking their showers, and if that needs to be separated, whatever that needs to look like, then we do need to address that. That safety measure needs to be implemented wholeheartedly. And I would also assume that the Y goes through those that training class, that they're certified, any employee would be certified. And I don't know the name of it.
Safe Sport?
I think it's Safe Sport.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but going back, and Mayor, I'm sorry that I'm belaboring this. I apologize. Again, this is one of those things we need to get right. And to me, I will not take I would rather stay at the fitness club than I'm at then. So, I mean, you're going to lose people like me if I have to go get a day pass just to financially support the MEC. I don't agree to do that. And I think that we need to look at this as a professional management contract, pay them to manage it, whatever that looks like. They need to come forward to us and say, here's the numbers, and here's the scope, like Brian Lindsay, our attorney, suggested, here's the scope of what the city's expectations are for management, but in no way should any of that revenue be going to the Y. And I guess I'm sure when the general public hears this, they're probably going to not be happy with that either, because that's part of what we are charged to do, is have a positive cash flow stream at the MEC. So to me, that just doesn't, and as a business owner, that doesn't make sense to me. When you don't cash flow it properly, but you've got the outlay for the management company, and the only thing to regain or recapture that is your day passes. That's not going to make it.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. I think we're looking at gravity to send this back for a rewrite, rework. Councilor Johnson.
Here's just another question that doesn't need to be answered right now. Is it possible that we open up the opportunity for other fitness facilities to pay us to allow their people to also use their memberships in our facility? There's a revenue stream.
Simple answer to that is the Y is the only nonprofit, which is why the council directed me to go that route rather than doing an RFP process for a for-profit company.
No, I'm saying separate. The Y manages it, we pay them lump sum, and then other fitness places can pay the city so that their members can utilize our facilities. We're still managing it, Y is still doing it. This is not any agreement other than for $50,000 a year, all of your members can take their Club Med, and we will honor those at the MEC. There might be a revenue stream that would alleviate some of the challenges. We'd have revenue coming in, and those folks would just have, like they used to do at, when you used to have a membership at the Supreme Court. Part of that membership was that you got to use the pool at the Coates back in the day, and I think the Supreme Court paid them a certain amount every year. So there's just something to think about, is that maybe that way we become more inclusive of all the other places, and then that's a business decision they can make based on whatever their corporate rules are or what their private rules are.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. So what I'm looking at is, it looks like maybe sending this back for a rewrite, and the agenda item says review and approve the Wellness Center operating agreement between the City of Virginia and the YMCA for 2021. So that's the the issue we're talking about right now. And what's ancillary to that position is what Counselor Johnson had indicated, and that is maybe looking at some other opportunities. I know we direct you to for the nonprofit, I remember that clearly, but, you know, there may be some other ways, and I think it's all about being able to capture some type of revenue stream at the same time and having a cooperative agreement. And I don't know what the Boys and Girls Club does at the Heritage Center. I can't remember what kind of agreement they have there and how the Heritage Center gets revenue stream from that. But I think it bodes well to go back for a rewrite, come back and answer those questions that we've all asked for today. That being said, Councilor Beyondich.
And also, I would like to hear from Sherry to see what she has to say, but I would totally agree that I would have a hard time paying for a Y membership to use the MEC. I wouldn't do that, and I don't believe our public is aware of this and how they would feel about it as well. I think this is a regional facility, as we've all stated, and I think there should be an option for people to just be able to use or join the MEC without having to be part of the Y. So I'm anxious to hear what Sherry has to contribute. Thank you.
Okay, Sherry, Councilor Beyondich has some questions. Can you give us her perspective on things from a financial perspective? Financial.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. This has been actually, quite a few things have been going back and forth, and I agree with Julianne, Councilor Paulson, and I also agree, yes, that this is a public facility, but we still have the bulk of, it's our equipment, it's our building, the heat, the cost, the water, all these what I call hidden costs. My opinion, this has to pay for itself or actually help us out in planning ahead for equipment replacement. I know I have been to different workout facilities, and the equipment gets used quite heavy. I don't want this to be another sinkhole. It's got to make some money. It's got to pay for itself. It's got to be open to just about everybody.
Thank you. And how this operates is important. I ran the fitness facility at the airport, the police department. I had to manage all the equipment, the ordering, the maintenance contracts that we had, monitor how much equipment is being used, how long it's being used, and only for the purpose of so many hours you have to replace. You have to replace the track. You have to do some maintenance work. You have to grease the wheels. You have to do those kind of things. That's all part of a management contract. Takes care of all that stuff, but it's a maintenance issue, so you have to, the revenue stream with respect to how you fund the maintenance, repairs, and replacement of that center and the fitness equipment that goes along with it, there's a lot of maintenance as well. So, Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate that you understand what that looks like. And I do agree too, Sherry, that's going to be a significant burden once you start having to replace equipment. That being said, since I would like to see this as a professional services agreement, and again, you know, I understand that we went through the Y because they were originally a partner in this whole process. I do get that. But, you know, if we're going to look at what the costs associated with the MEC is and running the MEC, wouldn't it make sense to put it out there competitively so we could see what other entities would bring to the table? To me, just because it's the YMCA and they're a nonprofit, you know, they could put any number that they wanted to cost to manage that, and we would have nothing to compare it to. So, in my opinion, we're not doing our due diligence and doing what we should be doing for the taxpayers, because this is going to be an added expense from the MEC's budget to hire a management company. So I would like to see it, I mean, if you're going to write it as a professional services agreement, I don't see that. This is more of an MOU. So to me, it's not a professional services agreement, and it's not written that way. But if we are going to write it as a professional services contract, I would like to see us go through, and I don't think you have to go through an RFP process, do you, Brian? When it's a professional service, we could just ask requests for quotes, just like we just got done doing with the furniture for the MEC in the first place. So to me, if I want to be a good city councilor and a good administrator of our taxpayers' money and their usage of the facility, I want to make sure that they're going to get the best bang for their buck, and I'm sure we all do. But I think that what this just looks like is very Y-centric. The Y will receive all the benefits. The MEC will have to pay out for the management of that. And then when it comes to maintenance and heat and all the hidden costs, that doesn't come back to us at all. So in order for me to do my due diligence, I would like to see that go out for requests for quotes from any local center that is in our region or in our area. And I guess that's the way I don't know if I can make that as a motion, but what we're being asked to do is go back to the table to rewrite this, and I would like to see it, I guess I make a motion that I would like to go back to the table, rewrite this as a professional service agreement, and that I would like to get requests for quotes. And that would be my motion.
Okay, I was going to ask for two separate motions, but that one really works. So there's a motion on the floor by Councilor Paulson to send this back to staff for reworking it as a professional service agreement, and then adding some requests for quotes to indicate that there are any other people who are interested in that regard. And so we'd have to establish, you'll have to establish what that cost factor is going to be with respect to quotes. So you have a lot of work to do in that regard, Brian and staff, so we appreciate your patience in doing so. There's a motion on the floor by Councilor Paulson. Is there support? Support by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Brian.
Just to address one of the items that was recently brought up, number 10 in the document that you have here does address that capital replacement of equipment that we would end up working with the YMCA for the acquisition and replacement of equipment. So we do have that in there. So that one hidden cost has already been addressed in this. I realize that there are many other concerns that the council has that they would like addressed, and we can definitely work on addressing those.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. So it has been moved and supported to send it back based upon the motion. And did you get the motion all right there, Pam? Thank you. So it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Britt, next item.
Thank you. The next item again is MEC related. The review and approve the early setup for trade shows expo pricing proposal.
And for this one, I'm going to call up Tyler Lundeen, as this is a industry standard thing that we have received feedback from several of the trade shows and events that are looking at coming to the MEC. We had said when we set our prices that we would definitely be listening to feedback that we received. So this is one of those feedback items. And again, this has been presented and approved by the Park and Rec Commission.
Yes, and thank you. Before you start, Tyler, I don't know if other councilors have, but I've received a lot of calls about not only the cost incrementally of for those who had got preferential over time for the 5-year period, what's going to cost at the end of the 5 years. There's concerns about how cost prohibitive it likely is going to be. In addition to that, if we're adding on top of that pre-setup costs associated with that, some of these trade shows aren't coming. They'll go to the deck or somewhere else, right? So just FYI on that. Tyler, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate that, Mayor. So we got a lot of feedback. I did talk to some current miners, people there, and I was asking them, what do you think of setup prior to the event? Right now, it's free. There's no charges. Obviously, everyone understands going into the new building that costs have been going up. And from the feedback that I've gotten, it's been pretty good. I have been talking to a few people and just kind of explaining a few things to them. But I did talk to one craft vendor as well as a rummage sale vendor that's currently at the miners building. And I'm like, what would you think would be fair? But before we went to the Parks and Recs board, they were thinking it was going to be a full day rental. If you wanted to do events set up the day before, it was going to be a full thing. We disagreed with that. We wanted to make sure that we got the feedback from the vendors. and everything at the current building, as well as some trade shows. The one that I was talking to about doing one the week of grand opening, due to several reasons, unfortunately, they're not going to be doing with us, but they gave me a price proposal from a few other places that were actually on the list that I'd done all the research for. We had done all the research for back in September. So we made this single-day events and multiple-day events background, basically based on the feedback and everything we got from the current vendors we spoke to at the Miners Building, as well as other trade show vendors, including our company, as well as others that do other venues across the state. So what we proposed is for single-day events, day one, it would be vendor load and setup. It would be a half-day rental price. The vendors that I did speak to, there was one person that wanted to sign the contract and everything right away. For, I believe there was 10 events on there. I told her that I would like to wait until we got through this process, because I don't like adding fees to people once they sign contracts. That's not fair and that's not right. So she actually proposed that it would be a half-day rental. As long as she knew ahead of time, she could adjust pricing on her end. So we have the half-day price for the day before, and then the event day obviously would be the full rent, because that's when the event's going on. For multiple day events, the first day would be a walkthrough / floor marking. When you're doing a major convention, 3 days, that first day is when the promoter is going to come in, start marking the floors and everything. That is not just good for them that it's free, it's also good for, to an extent, for our staff, because instead of them coming in at like 2, 3 in the morning or midnight to start setting up this stuff, as soon as that floor mark, and we already have staff on property, they can start setting up for that. And as long as it's done, for the next day, they don't have to do anything the day of. And that, if we plan it right and we communicate right with these vendors as well as the promoters, that could also save us a lot of money on overtime in the future as well, which also I think is a big concern as well as overtime. So that the first day would be comped, and then the second day, which would be vendor load-in and setup, the staff at the MEC has already set up everything. So it'd just be vendor setup, half-day rental, and then the preceding days, which would be the days of the event, are full rent for the next 3 days. I talked to people about this because I wanted feedback, and I think from my standpoint, as I'm talking to people, it's important for me to make sure that I'm getting as much feedback, negative or positive, as we can as we progress with a lot of these pricings and a lot of the structures that we're doing for things. Because we want to do it right, and we want to try to appeal to everyone that we can, because we don't want to make anyone upset, but also with the understanding that, even if we do it one way, some people are going to be upset. So it's trying to, get as much feedback as we can and make everyone, try to make as many people happy as we can, and that's what we did with this proposal. So this is what we're asking for council action on.
So quick question, and then we'll go to Councilor Johnson. Thank you. When you talk about people, you're talking about individuals, you're talking about conference people, you're talking about events, trade show people, are there individuals, or what, define people to me?
Promoters.
Promoters.
Promoters of these major events.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'd like to speak to your comment about the costs and people being upset. This council set all the costs so far. We are ultimately responsible. Tyler and Tracy are taking the brunt of all the negative criticism that they're doing this stuff, and they're not. They are a contractor that we have hired, the 7 of us sitting in these seats, to do what we've asked them to do. Every price has been set, or except with the exception of the birthday stuff that we're looking at today, by us. So it frustrates me when our citizens are complaining about what they're doing when they're doing exactly what we have tasked them with, exactly. And I also really want to remind folks that the Miners Building, as it currently sits, is in the state it is in because people haven't been charged, people haven't had deposits, none of that has been consistent for the last 60, however many years the building has been open. As we move forward, that consistency is being built in so that this building will live hopefully for 100 years, and we don't have to do this again until we're using plexiglass and plastic to add on and fix it. So for all those folks who who want something for nothing, I will be the person that says, that can't happen anymore if you want this facility to exist in Virginia. Your discount as a citizen of Virginia is renting this facility and not having to drive to Duluth to hold a wedding, not having to go to 6 restaurants in 3 days in Duluth to have a wedding, to not have to rent a hotel room for 2 nights in Duluth to have a wedding. You as a citizen of Virginia get to stay in Virginia in your own home, and your guests are going to stay in hotels no matter what. And now that revenue is coming to our area. Maybe those folks will be staying in Duluth and driving up here for the wedding, but that's the choice that your guests get to make, not you as the person holding the wedding. So I just really want to thank the Lundin Group for the hard work and all the stuff, and I'll use that word because that's the polite word, that you've been dealing with from folks who don't like what's going on. This building, this facility, these programs, even though we kind of beat Brian up, this is something that is absolutely unique to the Iron Range. There's not ever been a facility created that is so versatile, so multi-purposed as this. And yes, there's going to be bumps, and yes, the council can adjust the prices should we see fit. But I just really want folks, please email me, sjohnson@virginiamin.us, when you have those concerns. I will answer them. Seriously, stop beating up on the people we're hiring to do what we've tasked them with. We are setting these prices. We're looking at this today, and that brings me into my only question. Should there, can there, must there be a day 6, day 3, day 6, where this takedown is? That would be my only concern, that when there's a major show, and my grandparents, I spent years and years and years growing up with my grandparents doing county fairs, and I know takedown happens in about 37 seconds because they're good at it. Yep. But that would be my only question, is does there need to be something on the back end for takedown and cleanup by the promoter separate from the city time?
Tracy, could you answer Councilor Johnson's question? Then we'll move on to Councilor Beyondich. Tracy?
Happy to. Thank you, Councilor Johnson, for your kind words as well. Typically, I think whoever just made the comment, what you did, they're out in 37 minutes. Sometimes at expos, I've noticed they're out in 37 seconds. They're chomping at the bit on a multi-day event to leave early. But that does bring up an interesting question, especially for a major trade show. Some of those people who we've talked to about this very policy that might be users, and I think that it would probably, at this time, not be a major issue to deal with, but it might be one of those situations where we would like to reserve the right to come back before, through the process, as you so well put out. It's our process, as Brian, to the Parks Board, to the Committee of the Whole, to the Council, before it becomes policy. And I'd like that option to come back on that particular one. It's conceivable for a big show like the one we potentially may have had in October, or September rather, that they might be looking for that final day.
So that could be maybe worked into the contract language once we specify that because it's a 4 or 5 day event, that could be an option that we allow Brian or you all to have that option to put in a half day of cleanup as a comp or something to incentivize them coming here.
It really is nice to have that flexibility. And my previous experience, or current experience actually, in dealing with other buildings, is that the people on the ground who are booking the facility do have a little latitude without going back to hypothetically a board or a council to get everything. God, I hate to use the word micromanage, but in this case I will, because you may need to have that flexibility if it comes down to, do you want to use the MEC in Virginia, or are you going to go to the Sanford Center in Bemidji or St. Cloud or Rochester or Duluth? And trust me, we want to see this thing in the black as much as you do. And that's, what we're here to do, but it's nice to have a little bit of latitude occasionally.
And I guess I would ask that if and when we approve this, that there be some language put in there that allows for that latitude. I know one of the things that has been discussed is the ability for the management company or the promotion, what exactly are you, our promotion company, what have we hired you as?
Well, Angie reminded us on the way up.
We do a little bit of everything. Well, we do everything in the contract.
So are you so you're a consultant then? I'm trying to figure out what you're.
We're supposed to be the booking and marketing company.
Okay.
That's what we are. But we've helped do some other things.
Amazing things.
And we're happy to. We've also, as you very eloquently placed it, taken some serious hits, been attacked, which I don't care for one bit, and I'm going to take this opportunity now to be on record. He's not only my employee, he's my son. He deserves the respect that every person here deserves. And I don't care if it's coming from a resident or a counselor. We're doing what's on the contract. The price hits we take are your prices, not ours. We did the research. We love this job. We didn't bid on this job because we wanted to be part of this. This is exciting. But we didn't want to also end up being subject to some of the nastiness, okay? We just want this to succeed. But if you're a marketing person, or you're a promoter, or a person booking, you have to have this optimism and this excitement when you go to work every day. And that's what I've always been accused of my entire life. He's the eternal optimist. It's pretty damn hard when you argue with your son for an hour back from these trips about attacks and different things. We're your team. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson, please continue.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, there's still some hesitancy in general about what the MEC can be. And I think we would not be anywhere where we are without the two of you and your company. And I appreciate what you've been doing. And I hope that we can, learn to trust you, and that you are, as a community, we need to trust you. And I trust you both very much. I trust that Brian and you have a great relationship and that you are communicating with him. And I hope that we can, 37,000 views on a Facebook post in northern Minnesota is the entire northern half of the state when it comes down to it. And that's something you all helped accomplish, that you created those posts. And that's the kind of stuff that people, I just appreciate that you're here. And I would like to, and I'll go back to this, I would like to make sure that if we need to look at that contract to allow you to have the ability to make those decisions, that we're not managing, we don't manage our staff spending under a certain amount of money. I don't see any need. If you need to buy a $100 newspaper ad, that can't just happen under exactly what Councilor Paulson was talking about earlier about a management company. We pay them a fee, they do their thing. I would hope, and if we're not, I would hope we can get to that's what we're doing with you. We're paying you to be our marketing and promotion, planning, whatever you just said. Let's let you do that. And when citizens have concerns, they come to us, and if we have those concerns, to bring them through the appropriate channels back to you, whether it's through Brian or having a meeting with Brian and you or whatever, so that we're allowing you, because when this succeeds, we want to keep you. I want to keep you. I can't speak for anybody else. I want to keep you because if you're part of the successful team, that's how we're going to continue to be successful. And so far from what I've seen about the miners and the press we're getting and the excitement we're getting, it's the right fit for us. And I hope that we can continue to be the right fit for you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Before we go to Councilor Biondi, I just want to say that I want to, we're on item 3B, which is review and approve the early setup trade show and pricing. And so early on, there was some discussion about what that's going to be, and you had explained it, how the process is moving forward. And I, as the mayor, have spoken to a lot of community groups, a lot of user groups about the costs associated with the MEC, how moving forward. And for the large majority, 99% of the people are comfortable with that. And those who asked about, well, what's it going to cost us moving forward under the 3B? Is it going to be cost prohibitive for us? And I've always referred them to you and to Brian about that. You've worked out an agreement, you've discussed it, you've heard from the general public, you heard from those people that I've referred to you, and you've come up with this package, which I'm very comfortable with. So that being said, I'm good to go with that moving forward. And before we go to Councilor Beyondich, Brian, did you have something you want to add?
Yes, just really quickly, to summarize what we are asking for today. Currently in the Miners Memorial Building, we do not charge for setup. What the City Council has approved based off of the recommendation from the Park Commission is that in the MEC, early setup will be charged a full day's rent. So after receiving feedback from event promoters, we took to the Park and Recreation Commission this early setup proposal, which will then allow promoters to pay a half day's rent instead of a full day's rent, which the council has approved. So that's what we are asking for approval today, is the essentially reduction for early event setup.
And can I add to that?
So,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it okay? That half day that they would be charged for, the time is set for negotiation. So it's not going to be a time where we're going to be paying double or time and a half or whatever for staff. It's going to be a half day of our negotiations with that person.
Yes. So the end result of this is to bring in or make our facility more attractive, to bring in more events, and also to decrease potential overtime. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Tyler, hang on. Thank you, Tracy. Councilor Beyondich, finally.
Thank you. As in my former business, I was a vendor and a participant, or participated in trade shows. And I do appreciate the half-day setup. And I understand you need to do that in a time parameter. The vendors need to be set up and ready to go. And also at the end, when you talk about having a little bit more leeway on that time to clean up, from what I experienced, when people had that time locked in where they had to be out of the building, they were cleaning up their booths before the show was done. I mean, so when that show was done, they were out of there. So I totally understand where you need that little bit of leeway at the end for them also to clean up. And I'm jumping ahead here a little bit to the rest of your package.
Yeah.
I have grandchildren that live in Wisconsin, in Minneapolis. The prices that are set here are not out of line, especially for what they're getting. And I think people here in our little area are not used to that, but I am used to traveling out of the area. I go to the kids' birthday parties at a facility where they pay a set rate for exactly what you're doing here. So I think part of our job as counselors and being involved in this is to educate our public. We need to tell them, when they come and tell me, do you know what it costs to rent that facility? And I tell them, but do you realize what you're getting? You are getting state-of-the-art. You are having electricity. You are having professional. This is not the old miners where you are plugging extension cords into extension cords. So it's part of our job as city leaders to educate the public on what they will be getting with this brand-new facility and the advantages of it, and being able to stay here, have people come to us instead of us having to go to them. So I appreciate everything you do. I've been part of this in other areas where I've set up, tore down, and done the work. You are right on. So thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Beyondich. So under item 3B, review and approve the early setup for the trade show. That's where we're at right now on this, and then we'll be moving to the next item on the agenda. Is there any further discussion before we ask for a motion moving forward? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would echo Councilor Beyondich's sentiment 100%. And the Lundin Group, in my opinion, has done nothing but brought a level of professionalism to the MEC. And I do greatly appreciate that. And sometimes it's behind the scenes, so it's sight unseen for the general public. But, I want you to know that I think the body of us, we see what you're doing, we respect what you're doing. And I do apologize for those bumps that have occurred. But I am sitting here in full support of what you bring and what you've brought and the professionalism that I have seen thus far. And that being said, I'm totally comfortable moving item 3B forward, Miners Event and Convention Center early setup for trade shows, expo pricing proposal, with maybe the caveat that Councilor Johnson was stating, that we allow for some flexibility for what Mr. Lundin and his son have basically said could be a potential to come forward.
Thank you. There's a move to approve the early setup trade show pricing proposal from staff. And it's moved by Councilor Paulson and supported by Councilor Johnson. Further discussion, Councilor Friedlieb.
Just really quickly, I mean, over the course of this, and I do appreciate the work that you're doing. Your youthfulness is one of the things that takes people aback too, but you're very professional in the manner in which you go about your business, Tyler. I commend you for that. And I've expressed some of those concerns that residents have brought to me, but I want to keep you in mind that those are things that were brought to me that I expressed not from me, but from those residents. And I think it comes down to the thing that I used to tell students all the time. Whatever's being said, whatever's being happening to all of us in this entity right now is only 10%, and it's 90% how we respond and react to that. And I agree with Councilor Beyondich. We have to educate the public. We have to help them see that these are going to be fair. These are things that are going to be competitive. These are things that we have to promote, and that's what you're doing for us, and I appreciate the work that you're doing.
I appreciate the kind words. For me, I got a book going right now with all the feedback. I include it all as constructive. I try not to look at negative feedback. It's all constructive. For me, a lot of these things that we're presenting for ancillary revenue opportunities, if these are done right, which we're doing them right, that way we can look at some of our rental prices, and if that's a concern, which there's been some concerns about it. If we see that things might be a little high in price, we can adjust because we're making money other places that make up for that. And my job, our job is to make sure that this building does go in the right direction in regards to making money, and I don't want to see the public have to pay more in taxes because a building's not paying for itself and not generating enough money to sustain itself. So that's really important to me. I'd rather have them pay one little fee a little higher now than to have to pay thousands more dollars in taxes over a set amount of years. And that's all that we're trying to do as a team and collectively with Brian and Britt, is just to ensure that the end result is positive for the citizens in the region, everyone in the region. So, thank you.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and supported to approve the early setup for the trade show and the pricing proposal as presented at this committee of the whole meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Britt, next item.
The next item is the review and approve the birthday party packages and the post-game wrap-up coaches packages for the MEC.
Tyler?
Perfect, sounds good. Party at the MEC party packages. Everyone, I believe, got an email regarding the bumper cars. So we got a bumper car birthday package. That's the first package. Cruise the ice and bumper cars, $300. It includes 30 minutes on the ice with bumper cars, a 1-hour private room rental with additional setup time and cleanup, and 3 pizzas and pop for $12. Perfect way to celebrate another time around the sun. This is catered to anyone, kids, adults, anything. And then we broke it down. It was Brian's idea to break it down and do a bumper car and ice skating party, which is $500. It's 60 minutes on ice. You got a divider in the middle of the ice, and you got bumper cars and ice skating going on. Up to 24 people, 6 pizzas and pop for up to the 24 people. And then the third one we have is Gliding in the Birthday Fun with just the ice skating package. Some people might not want to do the bumper cars, so we wanted to make sure there was another option for them as well. This is $225, 60 minutes, up to 12 people, 3 pizzas and pop. And then we had a disclaimer. This was really important to make sure it was booked up to 90 days in advance. Hockey, ice skating, a lot of different on-ice events that are going to happen at the MEC. We're in the minors. This is new. So, we want to make sure that we're not overlapping or we're not taking away for anyone that's using the ice for any programming, because programming is really important. But we also have other avenues of ice to use in the city that these can go to as well, because they are indoor and outdoor. So we wanted to make sure that we added that on there, and we also added a disclaimer for no alcoholic beverages allowed for, this would be for like kids, and like family and kids, so.
Sure. Well, thank you, Tyler. I like that proposal. It's very affordable, reasonable, and flexible as well, I'm sure. Councillor Johnson, and then on to Councillor Beyondich.
Thank you. I like these a lot. Might go to my nonprofit world, I can see a nonprofit renting for $500 and then charging their folks $30 a person for this time. And everybody's benefiting. It comes out, the middle one comes out to $20 a person for the party, and that's an individual going to the movie and buying a couple of popcorn and a pop. So I think that this is phenomenal. I appreciate it, and I will make the motion that we accept.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson makes a motion to accept the item 3C, which is approve the birthday packages and the post-game wrap-up coaches packages for the MEC as proposed. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councillor Beyondich. Further discussion, Councillor Beyondich.
How soon can I book?
Yeah, so
Can I do the bumper birthday party? Can I book that?
Yeah, yeah. 90 days out. Yep, 90 days out, just to make sure that we're not getting in line, a lot of scheduling and stuff with programming for ice events, but everyone that has reached out, Pam and I have had some email difficulties we just talked about before the meeting. However, I am in contact and I have reached out and given everyone information. And as soon as we're in that 90-day period, I'm going to reach back out to them. But the pricing and everything, I've gotten great feedback. No one's yelled at me, so that's good. But no, constructive feedback, we'll call it. But no, it's been great. So a lot of excitement on that, and it's just another good opportunity to bring families and friends together at the MEC. So.
Well, thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it very much. It's moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? First, Councillor Paulson, and then over to Councillor Johnson, and then back to Councillor Beyondich. Councillor Paulson.
What date are you booking, Councillor Beyondich?
I would like to book that for the council.
Yes.
First available date, please. Council and staff, we will have a bumper car birthday party.
Thank you. Councillor Paulson.
Thank you for that. So just for clarification, you prefer 90 days prior to any event that, for booking purposes?
Correct, and I think we're definitely if it's not during any hockey season or ice skating, I know a lot of that stuff goes year round now with some leagues and everything, just because in ice during the summers inside. But as of right now, it's 90 days, just out of respect and scheduling wise. We don't want to do any overlap or make it messy. So that's why we have it right there for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paulson. Tyler, thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. So it says pizza. Are we going to have our own Miners brand pizzas coming through here? I mean, I can see there being some opportunity for...
I don't order the food, or else I'd be very biased and buy everything I like, so.
It would be the pizzas that's coming through our concession stands that the city is operating.
Okay, thank you.
So we do not have a specific brand of pizza that we have gone with yet.
So there could be the potential that we have our own Miners pizza, if somebody so chose to offer that up to the city.
Possibly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Or a pizza sponsorship company, right? So, okay, so thank you, Councillor Johnson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Brian.
One of the things I did want to touch on, because we haven't discussed the post-game wrap-up parties, these are not designed for VAHA. These are designed during a tournament weekend that you've got teams that are from out of town, that they're looking for a room in the building in between their morning game and their afternoon game, that they are wanting a team-only space. So that's what these rooms are, or what these packages are designed for. We would actually be able to turn over each one of these, we'd be able to host 6 of these packages at one time, and we'd probably be able to host at least 3 of those packages per day in each room. So this would be a great added benefit for those hockey tournaments. In addition, if one of our youth teams wanted to utilize this for a end of the season party, we definitely would be able to work with them for this. But it is not our intention that a Vaha coach would have to be renting a room from us for every single game. That is not the intention of this, and that's not what this is designed for. Thank you.
And thank you for that clarification, Brian. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Tyler, once again, I want to reiterate what the other counselor says. Just keep doing, Tyler, Tracy, the Lundin Group, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, it's our job to make sure that, you know, we take any issues very seriously. So if there's anything comes up, Brian will bring it forward to us and we'll address it at council level. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Britt?
Yep. And then the final MEC item is a review of the quotes received for the fixture furnishings and equipment for the MEC.
And I'm going to have Eric Wedge come forward to speak about this.
Eric, good morning.
Good morning, Council. I think for the bumper car thing, you could charge admission from the general public to watch the council do that. In your packet today, we received the quotes for FF&E. That was the furniture that was selected was thoroughly vetted by the design committee before we issued the RFPs. So the first item I would like to review would be the office furniture request for quotation. We received 3 quotes for that, 2 from Northern Business Products and 1 from Range Office Supply. And you might ask, well, why did Range Office Supply 2 quotes? They provided a substitution. We allowed a substitution as long as it met the manufacturer's general specifications for the quality of furniture. Interestingly enough, as you saw the summary in your packet, we kept the quotes to local vendors. So the local vendors were Burger Office, Firelight Galleries, Range Office Supply, Northern Business Products, and Slumberland. And in the process, Range Office did not provide a full quotation, so that's why their price is $23,831.60. They had 8 minor items that were not included in that proposal. And what our team did is we went back and we looked at Northern Business Products price. And if you were to subtract from Northern Business Products quote those missing items too, they were still under Range Office's quote by $565.61. So all quotes here are qualified bidders. We could go out and get another pricing on the vendor tables that Northern Business Product or that Range Office didn't supply. But again, I'd return to your city attorney. If we did go out for quotes and the quotes are now part of the public process and you do have to accept the lowest qualified quote, our recommendation would be for Northern Business Products in the amount of $27,503.02.
Okay, thank you, Eric. That's a low bid recommendation from our architectural firm, also the recommendation from our Park and Rec Commission, and also from our Park and Rec Director. And look for the council for additional discussion and potential council action. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So this went before the Park and Rec Commission?
No, this did not go before the Park and Rec Commission.
Okay. So as stated in our design team meetings, we did determine that Northern Business Products of Hibbing was actually a Duluth company. So I'm still, again, I was assured by both you and Julie Spearing that that wasn't, they were not, I mean, we can't disclude anyone, and I understand that. Anyone, well, these are requests for quotes, so we could have said local is 55792 or whatever we wanted to state. But Northern Business Products out of Hibbing is not a Hibbing locally owned company. They are out of Duluth. So again, I'm coming back to this again, and I'm frustrated, and I'm very surprised that Range Office Supply did not have a complete quote. So when you're saying quote not complete, that there's 8 minor items not included, and you've included C109 and C110, those are the tables?
Correct.
And why did they not supply that quote for the tables?
I would have to verify with them on bid day why they chose not to include that in their price. Every vendor had the same opportunity to source those items from the sourcing company.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm seeing is Berger we didn't receive a quote for anything from Berger when the majority of the chairs, the 800 chairs, were supposedly going to be sourced from Berger.
So this is a separate item. This is Brian's office furniture for the second floor. So we will get to the convention center chairs and tables in a
Correct.
separate discussion.
I'm just saying, I'm noticing Berger did not give any quotes.
You are correct in that statement, is that we were trying to buy all the tables and chairs on contract pricing, which is negotiated with the state of Minnesota, which meets all your
Right.
quotation requirements. In Berger, the day that we received quotes, did not provide quotes for that.
One thing, are we aware of the fact that the owner-operator passed away in March?
Yes.
And I'm sure that had an issue.
Yes, that was a
in regard to
concern.
that.
That was a concern of the
And I don't know
design.
who took over or anything, but that's obvious, I mean, that's my impression as to why that wasn't followed through on. Sorry, thank you.
No, thank you for that and including that. That was part of the design team's concern going forward with that. And we were assured that even if they did put a bid in, that the manufacturer would be able to handle all warranty or anything that would happen with faulty product. Again, since I don't see the bids are below, is that correct, Eric?
So in your packet that Pam sent out, I don't know what page it was, but you have a Range Office Supplies individual quote. We included all the backup to that, so.
Okay, I see the Northern Business Product breakdown. I do not see, is it further down?
I think it should have been, should have been the third quote in your packet.
Page 41? 49, okay, I'm on 39.
So you see that they missed C109 and C110. 7 tables and 9 tables.
Yeah, I would like to go back to them if Brian Lindsay, if our city attorney, what you would recommend, if we can in fact do that and ask them to amend their quote. I know that we have done that in the past with not only SEH, but with DSGW or other entities that have come forward to amend. With Tierney Brothers, we just did it. And also, I believe, with Hermar, we just did it. So I would like to understand why they did not complete that bid and what the actual tabulation would be. And then I would have a contention with the fact that Hibbing Business Products is is out of Duluth and it is not a quote-unquote local vendor.
And thank you. And Brian, the other question was that now that the quotes are open and public, how does that affect going back and ask for a quote again? So, Brian, could you please answer Councilor Paulson's question, if you would, please? Thank you.
So, Mayor, Councilor Paulson, it's a complicated question because we've endeavored upon a bidding procedure. The complicating factor becomes now that the bids are open and all the prices have become public. If what we're doing, if what we'll be doing is asking, let me put it this way. If the additional information that's to be filled in is part of the state bid price and everybody's price is the state bid price, that's one thing. But if the complicating factor and where we would run into problems is if one bidder gains a competitive advantage by learning the other prices and can amend their price to become the low bidder, then we're not going to be able to do that. We would have to reject all the bids and have everybody rebid once again if we wanted to allow further opportunity.
Sure. So what was just stated is if you minus off those 8 items, that that range office supply was still higher. How is that ascertained?
Eric?
I'm looking at the bid tabulations.
I didn't print out my packet, so I'm sorry. Normally, when it's this much information, I print it out.
So if you go to the Northern Business Products itemized quotation, and you take out the $1,297.03 and the $2,940, you minus that from their overall bid, that's how that difference of $565.61 between Northern Business Products and Range Office was ascertained.
So there's a difference of $500 and some dollars between Range Office and Northern Business Products. Is that correct for the total?
Correct.
Okay, so we have the ability then to choose someone who we basically would say would be more of a local vendor, I would assume, Brian, than someone who's out of Duluth?
Brian?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Councilor Paulson. We've got to be careful if it's a true bidding process, if what we've asked for is sealed bids, and we've not undertaken the process that would be necessary for best value bidding, then we would be locked in at the lowest qualified or lowest responsible bidder. So there is.
So even if we didn't do an RFP, we did a request for quote. So doesn't that fall under a different parameter with we do not have to go with the lowest bidder?
And in the request, and just to refresh my recollection as to the process, in the request were folks that were interested in responding, were they asked to respond by sealed bid? That's where we run into problems, because if we're asking, whether we call it a request for proposal, if we say, here's the number of things that we need, here's the item list that we need you to respond to, and we want you to respond by sending us a sealed bid that contains your prices, and what we're going to do is we're going to open all those envelopes at the same time and compare the prices. If that's the process, I think the state may be able to look past the fact that we call it a request for proposals, and they're going to say what you were doing was sealed bids.
And is that the process we followed?
I'll have to defer because I'm not.
Eric?
The process was followed is that the bids were due at a certain time, but they were emailed to Britt, Brian, and Julie in my office all at the same time. So Britt, Brian, and DSGW received the quotes all at the same time from each one of the vendors that were bidding. I'd have to go back to Britt or Brian or Julie's email to find out when Range Office's quote exactly came in, when Northern Business Products quote came exactly in, but they came in before 2 p.m. on that date.
Yeah, and they came in sporadically. Some came in a few days earlier. They were not sealed. They were just emails to us.
So it's not a sealed process.
Right, it was not a sealed bid
So
process.
I would
You were
say,
just asking, what are our options here, right?
I'm asking what our options are, because Mayor, what my main concern is that the design team specifically had a discussion with DSGW that we wanted to remain local, and that Hibbing Business Products was a Duluth company. And that was very clear in our design team meetings. So I guess what I'm deferring to is how this happened. We can't turn anyone down, I get that. But maybe we made a mistake on not defining it properly. But the design team was very clear as to what we were doing, and I spent many hours talking to our local vendors about how they could be a part of the process, or what do they need to do. And you and I have had conversations. So I'm a little frustrated as to, I don't know why they didn't complete their bid. I haven't talked to them since then. But if there is an option for us to use someone in the 55792 zip code that is paying for part of the tax on the miners building for a difference of $500, I don't know why we don't have the option to choose that. And that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Eric?
I think we're bringing these to you as a recommendation within the parameters of what you guys can approve legally. So in the end, all bidders are qualified, with the fact that we would have to source those, just in clear transparency, we would have to source those tables that range office either from another vendor, or have range office supply provide a sample of a table or side table that would meet the council's expectation for approved equal.
Brian?
Can I make one more comment?
Yes, please, yes.
I guess I'm, again, very surprised that this did not come back to the design team, Eric. I'm not happy with our process, because I thought we were really trying to be transparent and to work with our local vendors. And I can appreciate one of the vendors not putting in any quotes, but the fact that this vendor did take the time to do that, and I'm not sure why it was incomplete, but I'm just surprised that there's a lack of communication with that portion on the design team. And I would like to hear our city attorney weigh in on what our options are.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Paulson. And then, as part of that, given what our options are, once we select an option, the time frame with respect to that, can we reject quotes and then re-quote them out, or, as Councilor Paulson is concerned about being a local bidder, and I gotta say that, you don't want to negate anybody from bidding, but I think the purpose, the goal, just to hire local whenever possible, and I think that's what we're trying to get at here, and that's what the design team, I think, request was. Brian, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And so the council does have options available to it. Obviously, you could reject everything that's come in, go back to the beginning. That being said, based on a more clarified understanding that we weren't under a strict bidding process, these weren't sealed confidential bids, they were emailed in electronically. The request that went out was essentially a request for proposal. I think ultimately the council likely does have the opportunity to award this contract as it sees fit. I think the
cleanest way to do it is?
The cleanest way to do it would be to reject and then have everybody rebid if we have the opportunity, if we've got the time to do that. In the event we don't have the time to do that, and in the event that we need to get these things done, I think the council has all responsible bidders before it. The difference between the amounts is in the grand scheme of things fairly low, and the council's risk in awarding with that minor of a difference is fairly minimal.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. With that being said, I know time is of the essence, so I would like to move the award of the bid to Range Office Supply in the amount stated in the packet, $20-something thousand. Or whatever it is. I would like to award the contract to to them.
So range office for $23,831.60.
Yes.
Then we'd have to source out the tables.
I would just
Go ahead.
add to the request that the minor tables be sourced out. We would go back out for quote on those, have range office, try to find an alternative product.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved by Counselor Paulson, and did you get the gist of that motion? Thank you. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
Support by Counselor Johnson for discussion. Further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
So are we looking at, on page 14, just the top section at this time? And then we need to look at the miscellaneous section separate, and then the next page, page 15, I'm confused as to exactly what we're discussing in this particular motion.
We're just talking about the office furniture for Brian, the Park and Rec Department's office only at this part of the discussion in the meeting.
So we're looking at basically 3D1 as opposed to the next three going down, if they were to be broken out.
Correct.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. The bigger question then becomes, when we look at these other quotes, they're on the second graph chart. There's a $14,000 difference because the quote doesn't include more of the what we requested. And then if we go down to page 15, nothing came in for the event center lounges. And there's only one for the fireplace lounge and event. So I want to make sure that as we're looking at each one of these charts, that's all we're considering is what's in the chart and nothing else. Does that affect the pricing? I noticed that Northern Business has a delivery charge on their request or their quotes, and Range Office Supply does not have it's included in their quotes. So we're just looking at the first chart with the Northern Business Supplies quote of $27,503.02, $29,922.68, $22,668, and $23,831.60. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Further discussion, real quick, and then we'll vote. For me, I like the clean approach about rejecting all the bids and coming back but I understand the interest of time and with the recommendation that we can do this in a legal manner moving forward. I'm going to support the motion, obviously. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, do we need another motion to go out for quotes for the ancillary or whatever those items are?
We would want to go out for new quotes on the 8 items not included, the C109 and the C110 as part of the furniture package.
Mayor,
Yes, Councillor Paulson.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
before we do that, I'm actually wondering, since we didn't receive quotes on many of these, if maybe we tie that into the rest of the things that we didn't receive any quotes for,
Yeah, C109, C110, and the rest of the stuff?
possibly.
That makes sense?
Is that a Han product?
It is not, but there might be a way that we can, as we get further into the presentation today, my recommendation, because we did not receive the quotation from Burger Office for the event center tables and chairs, which is the primary, one of the most important furniture pieces of the MAC. Not that any furniture piece is more important than the other, but for your operational an event center, your plan, we absolutely need those. Those have a 6 to 8 week lead time, so time is, we have time, but time is still of the essence as September 20th is approaching quickly. That being said, I have reached out to both of the vendors and they will quote alternative vendors to provide that furniture. We were trying to keep it local and buy it through the contract pricing structure with the state of Minnesota that's already been pre-negotiated. That being said, if we open that up for quotes, we are going to have to look at potentially going outside. Burger Office would still be a vendor that could provide a price, but they didn't do it when they had it, that opportunity. We are probably going to have to go to the opportunity of having those tables and chairs provided by an outside source or an outside vendor.
Okay. Well, even though it comes from an outside vendor, it would go through Burger Office, say, for example, or through Range Office, for example, or not.
Or not.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I mean, we could offer Burger Office an extension that says, okay, provide what you guys had worked so diligently on prior to the tragic event of Jim passing away, and the samples that were provided to the city. We could grant him an extension that would say, okay, by next Friday, provide your pricing. But in the meantime, if that doesn't happen, we also should have a secondary plan to really issue these out for quotes that you can get. And that would be a hard sealed bid price because it's going to be over $275,000 worth of furniture, which would require a sealed bid situation.
So that's completely different than what we just voted on, so, right?
But that would just be for the furniture for the event center. So there's other packages here that we were trying to keep local.
Okay, so we have to make another motion here. So that motion would be for what? C-109 and C-110?
Correct.
Would that be a sealed bid or request for quotes?
That would be under, I mean, it's under five, that could be just a quote.
Okay,
Those
so-
are not a large dollar amount item.
So we could make a motion to go out for quotes for C-109, C-110, and then the next, when we move to the big project, that has to go in a separate motion for a sealed bid process, correct?
Correct.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Paulson?
Yes, and I'll move.
Okay, Councilor Paulson moves for staff to go out for quotes for items C-109 and C-110. Request for quotes, is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. So we're done with that portion, right?
Yes.
But before we go to the next one, it's been a long morning. Again, I think we should take 5-minute break here. Is that all right with everybody? Just take 5 minutes? Get refreshed, use the restroom. Thank you. Let's just take 5 minutes. Thank you. We're gonna take 5 minutes before we resume, so thank you. Okay, thank you. Well, we just took a quick break. We're back online. Britt, the next item on the agenda?
And we're continuing on these quotes still. We still have a few more to go through.
Okay, thank you. Eric, thank you.
And I'd just like to say for the office furniture request, because we had the prices that we had, I believe you guys got a good price check too, that Range Office was really close in line with what their competitor was. So I just would like to state that for the record.
Okay.
The next is the miscellaneous FF&E request for quotation items. We received 2 quotes for that, again, from the same 2 vendors, Northern Business Products and Range Office Supply. The difference between those is a significant a dollar amount, but then again, Range Office Supply did not provide quotations for several of the items which make up the difference. And it was the beverage cooler for the room, some mobile, 4 mobile coat racks, and a mobile, and 400 hangers for the mobile coat racks. So that was the difference. I would offer the same opportunity to the city here is, again, since these were not sealed bids, you could award the items that Range Office did quote, and then we could go out for new quotation on the items that were not provided. So the items that they did provide were the decorative trash cans and the beverage cart. So there were, and their price for the decorative trash cans is less than what Northern Business Products' price was for the decorative trash cans, and their price for the beverage carts between the 2 vendors are relatively similar in cost.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'll move to approve the quote from Range Office Supply in the amount of $6260.46 for the items that they did bid on, and that'll be the first motion, and then the second motion would be similar, parallel to what we did last time.
Okay, moved by Counselor Paulson and supported by Counselor Johnson. Did you get that motion, Pam? It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Then I'll make another motion to go out for quotes for the items that were not included on the package from Range Office Supply.
Support.
Moved by Counselor Paulson, supported by Counselor Johnson. Did you get that motion as well, Pam? Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
The next item on the is the event center and arena lounges. We were trying to purchase that on contract pricing through Berger's office. We received no quote from them. So the options that you would have at hand would be to recall the package that we were working on with Berger Office and try to contract with somebody else. We have reached out to the suppliers of the tables and chairs, and they're willing to quote other vendors outside of Berger Office. We could do a parallel track of, trying to work this through with Berger Office and get them to provide the quotes as originally stated. But at the same token, these furniture items, the chairs and the tables, are about 6 to 8 weeks out. So we kind of want to make a decision whether we allow outside of the area vendors to bid on the tables and chairs, or if we want to still try to work with Berger Office.
I think the difference is here, we did, the local vendor did not provide a quote, right?
Correct.
So to ask him to provide a quote now, I guess, is an issue. So let's go to Counselor Johnson and then over to Counselor Paulson.
So this is just a question of knowledge. If we're in contact with the folks that make it, why can't we buy it directly from them and not have a vendor?
I can verify that, but that's typically not how they're structured, because they fabricate it and ship it, but then you need somebody locally or somebody to come in and take it out of the packaging and install it, and that is part of what Burger Office was going to provide to you. So usually they provide that installation piece, has been negotiated in the contract price. Again,
I appreciate that. I was genuinely curious, and that makes very logical sense why we'd do that.
and then for clarity, this is about a $275,000 furniture package. This is the most expensive portion of the furniture that you will be purchasing for the MEC.
And we received no quotes for that?
What we were doing, Mayor, was trying to buy it on contract price. So municipalities, colleges, schools, all public entities, the furniture vendors negotiate with the state predetermined prices. So if you buy one chair, you get it at X amount of dollars, and it's already negotiated. So the recommendation, if we go out for bids on this now, that price would either be the same as that pre-negotiated price, or it potentially could be less. But we would have to, determine that.
Thank you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a couple questions, Eric. In the quote tabulation, it says event center and arena lounges. In some of our information that was provided by DSGW, event center was one, and upper level concourse was split with lower understair lounge. So can those two possibly be split on the arena lounges and event center furniture?
They went out that way.
They went out split.
They went out split already. And
Okay.
so, yes, that would be, we would still recommend doing that same process as splitting it and not tying the two together, because there are different opportunities of substitutions. We don't want substitutions on the chairs or the tables based upon the design committee review. We did a thorough review on color, style, material, table quality of construction, and we'd want to stay with that. But on the lobby furniture, we could allow substitution similar to what we did with the office furniture, as long as it was an approved equal to the manufacturing process that was at hand.
So thanks for clarifying that, because in the quote tabulation, it's got them combined. So that's what confused me. Then on the event center furniture, the banquet chairs are a brand called Daniel Paul. Is that correct? Is that the brand?
Correct.
Okay, and the training tables were KI. Is that correct?
Correct.
And are the KI tables the same tables that Range Office Supply was unable to bid on in the other for the office furniture? Is that the same table and the same brand, KI?
I would have to verify with Range Office if they could provide the KI line of product. I can't answer that today.
Okay, but I mean, was that in the office furniture for Brian's room? Was it the same KI tables that the design team had looked at?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that would probably tell me that they do not have a contract, a vendor contract with KI.
I would assume that, but I don't want to assume anything.
Okay, that being said, I just Googled up Daniel Paul, and I've got the local rep for Minnesota and the surrounding area. Would it be prudent for Range Office to call them and say, hey, we've got a project coming up, could we be a vendor? Or with KI as well?
And we have the local vendor contact too, and we've been in contact with them saying, hey, we're disappointed that Burger didn't provide the quote, but you have a major project here and we still need to get it by September 20th.
Sure.
We could add to our we just asked them, would they quote, because they've been working through Burger, would they quote other vendors? And both the KI and Daniel Paul said they would quote other vendors. So we can go back to them and ask if they would quote Range Office. If Range Office could be set up as a state contract vendor for you guys.
And that's exactly where I'm going with that. If Burger isn't going to, I don't know what their status is, and I can't assume to understand what is going on. I want to be sensitive to that. But the goal here is to use local suppliers as much as possible. And I would think that Daniel Paul and KI, if they are not going to be represented in this area, that they would be looking for an additional vendor. And I would like to see that conversation take place so that the city of Virginia has an opportunity to still purchase the products that we, as a design team, had looked at, but utilizing a local vendor and giving that preference to a local vendor as opposed to when we do. Brian, our city attorney, Brian, I didn't know Brian Silver's back there. So if it's over that amount, it doesn't matter when we go out for an RFP, it doesn't matter who bids on that. It could be from North Carolina, it could be from wherever. But again, I'm trying to set the parameters correct before we go through this process again, that if say Daniel Paul and KA would allow a local vendor to, what would you call it, to be a vendor of their products, to resell their products, to wholesale it, we're still at the mercy of the regular bidding process. Is that correct? Or could we accept a state bid?
The state bid is always an option because that's a pre-negotiated price. If we're putting it out for a public bid and we're using, and in this case where we've got contracts that are over $125,000, we're going to have to be much, much more careful about the process, and it needs to be a pure bidding process, and then we would be committed to a lowest responsible bidder.
So how did we do this with Burger being, or with any of them? How did we solicit this when we knew the amount was going to be over 275?
Through the state bid.
Pardon?
Through the state bid process.
Okay.
That excludes all of us from having to do the bid process.
Got it. So if we have to kick this out due to lack of any bids coming forward, we can still go through the state process, maybe have a conversation with some local vendors about, to get on that vendor list of either Daniel Paul or KI, which are the preferred vendors that the design team and DSGW chose. So that's something that we could do. It's legal, and that then we could reopen it up for what is the process on that for state bid? I don't mean to be ignorant. There's been so many times we've done
Great,
this.
I know. You just get a quote. You would just call them and say, I want to purchase this many things under the state bid, and you just have them give you the quote.
Okay,
It's totally.
so I think that would make sense to me. I don't know if everyone's been following along, it's a long process, but I understand who the brands are that we want. I understand what we're missing is a local vendor to resell those brands, that they could then be a part of the state-awarded vendor process or contract. So I'll let anyone else speak, but I think I kind of know where I'd like to see this go. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Any other counselor? Counselor Johnson?
Counselor Paulson, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. This is year, 5 for us, and we're still learning everything, and we're going to be doing it again within a year or two with the other buildings. So I think that we have this experience and the ability to question and have good answers. I appreciate where we're heading, and would defer to you to make the motion, and I will support the motion since you have it in your head.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. Anything else before we move? Eric?
And I would just state that we should do this process relatively quickly, because if perchance range office can't get on the state contractors list with those two brands, we would want to put it out for bid. But to answer your question, Julianne, and I'd ask this of your attorney too, what DSGW has done in the past with other clients is we've set a radius parameter of being able to service and warranty a product. So if we had to go out for bid with this, and we should know that within 2 weeks that we do, and we'd be back here with the committee of the whole to say, hey, we've exhausted some local opportunities. We believe that we need to proceed with going out for bid, but we'd go out for bid, sealed bids with the parameters that 100-mile radius, a 60-mile radius of being able to service and warranty the products. Would that exclude Duluth or Hibbing vendors? Probably not, but those are probably the vendors that we may have to go out to accomplish the furniture needs that you want in that facility. But the current motion is to see if range office can get on that list. I was just wanted to explain the alternative process if they can't.
Thank you. We don't have a motion yet, so Counselor Paulson.
I don't know if I can make a motion like that. I think the motion might just be to,
Well, what would the motion, proper motion be for us to move forward? Brian, could you help us with that, please?
So the motion, so just to recap and to make sure that I'm on the same page. So what we're looking to do is to reach out, try and establish a local state bid vendor, and then go back out on the state bid.
so we have to kind of reject, I mean, there was no contract pricing, so there's nothing to reject, right?
Correct. I think what we do is we just declare that it was a failed attempt to achieve a bid. I think the motion would be to direct the city to go back out to seek a state bid, to seek an award under the state bid, and then allow staff and then direct staff to contact him to see if we can identify a list of local or semi-local state contract or state bid vendors.
So that, I think that clarifies it. Thank you, Brian. And that would be the motion I would make then. Pam, I don't know, did you get all that? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian, for the clarification. Motion on the floor by Counselor Paulson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
One more item. Fireplace Lounge and a event concourse. This one we had issued to Rosie Gams in anticipation that we would get state contract pricing, government pricing from her. In all transparency, Rosie was not able to set up contract pricing as a vendor for that furniture, but she did provide a complete quote and a price. And the lead time on the furniture is 8 to 10 weeks. The price in front of the council today is for $26,610.80.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson?
With all the process questions, the question that hasn't been asked today is, where are we when it comes to budget with this stuff? Are we within budget? Are we over budget? I guess that should have been asked the last four going forward and as well with this.
I'll let Brian answer that because he and I did have a discussion about this.
Brian?
We are, all of the furniture that has been quoted today is within the budget that was presented to the city council, which actually happens to be less than the budget that I had set aside for the furniture.
Okay, thank you. I will move awarding Firelight Galleries the fireplace, lounge, and event concourse pricing at $28,610.80.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Freely. Further discussion. I'm just going to make a quick, brief comment. I'm not on the design team, so whatever the process is, whatever decision is made, I support whatever's recommended. But I would have liked to have seen somewhere along, and maybe this comes there down the road, where when you're adding the mining and the logging component and the timber component like that, I mean, there's local vendors that make specialized log furniture that could be part of a building or part of in a lounge area or something like that. We never really considered that at all, but being in the timber industry, the log industry, how that works and how beautiful these products go with sculpture designs and everything, I don't know. So just something to think about in the future. So moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. When I've sat in, those kind of things did come up a little bit, and these pieces are meant to be sat on 14,000 times during the year, and my concern would be for a local artist to create a piece of furniture that would not be designed for 14,000 sits a year. So I think that this has been very vetted by the design committee as well, and there were, if I remember right, and I could be wrong, some discussions about that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, and I concur that this isn't the appropriate style of furniture for this type of activity. But as we move in the future, look for other areas that would be less utilized. I mean, those kind of things, I've seen them in other venues, in other big event centers. It really complements it well. So just as a comment. So it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Eric?
I don't mean to belabor this, Larry, but the accent tables maybe could be that we're going out for requotes because we did not get pricing for it. We're a log-looking accent table. And I would offer that as an opportunity to, as we go out for requotes on those accent tables, to reach out to some of our local log vendors, because we were paying homage to the logging industry as part of the design team. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. I just mentioned that because it's a design team decision, and I support whatever the decision the design team makes. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. And Eric, thank you. I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to relook at that. Totally perfect. And then just to, because Brian stepped out, at the design team meeting yesterday, Mayor, we did have a discussion about the gentleman that does the saw blades with the art. So there'll be some really wonderful, I really feel like wonderful, creative community things being brought forward to be a part of that logging and mining theme. So I'm really excited as we move forward, very much so.
And just a quick comment about that saw blade. I had lunch with a guy the other day. He makes all the saw blades. He's got one to donate. I did let Brian know that, so I've hooked him up with that, so thank you for that. Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Eric?
Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your patience. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Item number 7 is approved resolution for proposal of the agent of record for property and liability insurance.
Is this the same one we've had in the past?
There's an email in your packet, it's the same,
Right.
the
Same
same
one,
from
yeah,
Bob
so-
Hesker Agency.
We're satisfied with their performance? Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson?
Do we go out for proposals every so often on this? I seem to remember asking this before, but I don't remember the answer.
We have not.
We haven't. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, what? Go ahead.
We have not gone for proposals, and you don't have to because it's a professional service, but that's up to the council, I guess, if you choose to go that route.
Thank you. I'm comfortable moving forward with the proposal, but I'm asking our staff what their recommendation is.
We did go out, I think, in 2016 for proposals, and the answers we got were we can't beat this. So he does not, has he noted he hasn't changed his rate since early 1990, so.
Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Looking for council action on this item, number 7.
I'd make a motion for approve the proposal for the agent of record for the property and liability insurance.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Philippe. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We conducted a surplus sale, and we have the bids in your packet for your review.
I'm good. Thank you. Counselor Johnson?
What happens to all the items that weren't bid on?
Depends on what it is. If it's still, if we think it has enough value, we'll do it on a publicsurplus.com, and we'll do it electronically. Things like the calendar holders, we'll probably just toss.
Okay, thank you.
Looking for council action?
I'll approve the bids.
Thank you. Well, moved by Counselor Philippe to approve the bids as is indicated in your packet. Is there support? Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Here, before we go to item 10, could I bring up that on your desk, I did put an order to remove building. This is for action next Tuesday at the council meeting, but I just wanted the council to be aware that this is coming forward. He has been given the letter notifying him that his building is condemned. He did ask for review by planning and zoning, so they did schedule the hearing to review his request for appeal. He did not show up. So then they again issued the letter that your building is still condemned and that if you don't remediate it within the next 30 days, we're going to the council to ask for action. And now we're at this point to ask for action next Tuesday.
Thank you. And this is matter of public record?
It is a matter of public record.
So the owner, Jason Lauren, who is the owner and taxpayer of the physical address of 119 6th Street South in Virginia, which is Lot 19, Block 82, Virginia's second addition to Virginia, St. Louis County, Minnesota, which is the parcel code 090-0030-01840. Value building $30,000, land value $2,200, for a total value is $32,200. And the grounds for this order is as follows. The building on this property, because of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, physical damage, unsanitary conditions, and abandonment, constitute a fire hazard and a hazard to public safety and health. And repairs to be made is as follows. The building must be raised and the site filled pursuant to the standards established by the City of Virginia. The period for compliance within 120 days from the date of this order. This order shall be served upon the owner or the record of the owner agent if the agent is in charge of the building or property, and upon any occupying tenant, and upon all lien holders or record in the manner provided for service and summons in civil action. If the owner cannot be found, the order shall be served upon the owner by posting it at the main entrance to the building, or if there are no building, in a conspicuous place for the property, and by 4 weeks publication in the official newspaper of the municipality. This is the gist of the order. Anybody who wants to see this order can notify our city clerk, Pamela Bean, thank you, at 749-3579, 749-3579. And so this is on the agenda for us to approve. This is actually going for condemnation and city action by court order. Is that correct?
Correct. It's just here today for information. It'll be on the agenda next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Mr. Lauren has been sent a letter inviting him to attend the meeting.
And we don't need to take action at this point in time, so this is for the council action.
Just
for
here to
next
answer
Tuesday.
questions if you have any questions.
Okay, so does any councilor have any questions with respect to this moving forward? Seeing none, thank you, Brett.
And one other item I do have, we did take applications for the senior administrative coordinator position in the Community Development Planning and Permitting Office. As per our hiring policy, because it is a new position in AFSCME, I can have up to 3 council members sit on the panel for interviews. So I would like to know which 3 council members will be sitting on that panel with us.
Okay, thank you. I would like to have at least one member of the Personnel Committee on there, and then anyone else who would like to serve in that capacity. So I look for volunteers from the council with this regard.
Can you repeat that? I have such a hard time hearing you with this.
I know, I have this plexiglass.
Sorry.
The senior administrative coordinator, the applications were received. We need up to 3 members of the council to sit on the panel for interview.
It doesn't have to be 3, but it'd be up to 3.
3.
And we prefer, if we can have 3, that'd be fine. So we have a light on Councilor Freely.
I'll volunteer for that.
Councilor Freely volunteers to serve as one, and Councilor Johnson as another, and Councilor Paulson.
If I may, I would volunteer. I also have one other request. Is it possible to have all of the applicants, like we did in the past, where we could go and just read through all of the applicants and not just the ones that are weeded, that have already been gone through? Is that a possibility?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The way the state law reads it, unless you have a vested interest, you cannot review the applications, but if you're on the interview panel, you have a vested interest.
Okay, so
yes.
I would appreciate, just so I can look at what has come in.
Please do, and I'd ask you to also denote or something, make a list or put a marker on the ones that you'd like us to interview, so they can make the list of who we should interview.
Okay, and when will those be available, Brett?
They are available now, whenever you'd
Okay.
like. Stop downstairs in the clerk's office.
Great.
And they can get them
Thank
for
you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll be looking for a motion on the floor, probably to appoint Councilor Johnson, Councilor Paulson, and Councilor Freelieb to serve as part of the interview panel for the senior coordinator position for the Planning Permitting Department. Motion made by?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, make a motion by Councilor Beyondich, and I'll step down as the mayor and second that motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Councilor Johnson, Councilor Paulson, Councilor Freelieb for volunteering to serve on this interview panel. Thank you. Councilor Johnson.
I would like to have us look at do we still need the plastic in the room? We're all separated by at least 6 feet, and it is causing feedback and stuff when we're doing it. So I guess I would ask if we could have, I guess it would be Chief Lewis, evaluate that and come back with a recommendation if we still need to continue with the plastic.
Okay, we could direct, if you would, Britt, to contact and do some research to see if this is continuing to be necessary and wish to do so. I think whether it's necessary or not, I want to make sure that the comfort of every council member is being considered as we move forward. So thank you. Anything else?
Yep, the final item on the agenda is the discuss city's labor negotiation strategy for labor negotiations with MAPE, and this meeting may be closed as per section Minnesota Statute 13D05 subdivision 3.
Did we do the
Before we go to that, can we go to number 9?
Yes, number 9.
Along with Council, review the
Thank you.
wastewater agency response network program for the wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, number 9.
Okay. And?
I guess
Pam, please.
I can
Pam?
answer some questions. So this was presented from People Service, just recommending that the city adopt a resolution, which we will have at our next meeting if it's approved, for this WARN program, which is kind of like a mutual aid program where if any other wastewater areas or cities have problems, you can go to their rescue, they could come to ours. There's no charge for the program. So they're just recommending that because of the issues last year that occurred with the COVID that.
And I think it does help because we can all band together for a common goal and objective as we address the issues that are outlaid, particularly the issues of unfunded mandates and things of that nature from the EPA or the MPC, excuse me. So this is something for us to consider. I think it's appropriate for us to move forward with that, but I look for council input and action. Councilor Freely moves to approve item 9 with respect to the wastewater agency response network program for wastewater treatment plants, supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. And now we'll move to item 10, looking for council action to close this meeting pursuant to labor negotiations with MAPE. Moved by Councilor Freely, supported by Councilor Paulson. Any further discussion before we close?
I have one.
Yes, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. And I think, I don't know if I can bring this up under other items of concern, but I do have a hospital board meeting next week, and I know what will be part of the discussion will be the sale of the hospital and where we're at with that. And I don't know if that's an appropriate or inappropriate time, but I do have that meeting coming up.
Sure. Thank you. Before we vote on that motion to close, Brian, I think you've been doing some research on behalf of the city with respect to the helipad.
I have, Mayor. And just to kind of give a very, hopefully not vague, but just a general update. There's one issue, we moved to a point in that sale process where we were ready to close. We ran into one hang-up with the bond financing that had accompanied the helipad, and apparently is also connected to the elevator at the hospital. And so we are currently in discussions both with Essentia as well as Deed, and we may be bringing in some other folks to try and correct those issues and see if we can't work past those. And essentially, the issue or the requirement that they're looking at that's hanging everything up is Deed is asking, or not asking, is requiring that either actual fair market value be paid for the property or that we hold it for 125% of its useful life, but I can't really get anybody to commit what a useful life of a helipad is. So, but I trust we haven't reached 125% of its useful life at this point. So that is the singular issue that exists still, and we are working on that both within the city and cooperatively with Essentia to resolve
So that being a singular issue, Brian, how, and I don't know, you probably can't really foresee what length of time, but as this moves forward, we're still mindful that's still on the city's books and they're still not paying rent.
Correct. Yep.
But you don't have a maybe an indicator of,
We're working as quickly as we
Okay.
can, but depending on what ultimate action is going to be required to take care of this, it could be something that may necessitate a request for some sort of special legislation, which could take some time to get put in place.
Okay.
We're hopeful that we've got other options, but it's unclear at this point what exactly the timeline is.
Thank you very much.
And another conflict with deed. So, thank you. Thank you. So, you got your questions answered there. So it's been moved and supported to close the meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.